We're finally here, part 2 of the bank statement checks. What can they see, and why do so many of you not know about this yet? And I know lots of you watched this little short here, this YouTube short here, and because of it, so many of you have followed me. So hello, I want to introduce myself very briefly and thank you for your follow. Don't forget to hit notifications so you know when my videos are released, because I do them every single week. And of course, when I'm live. So my name is Ali. I'm the founder of the Justice Journals and OFFSYSTEM, and it's something that I created after I successfully sued the Department of Work and Pensions 3 times for various different things, and the things I didn't win are still in the Court of Appeal. I'm all about transparency, and on this channel I break down everything that is relative to money, to income, to having a better life, and moving towards a life off system where we are not being tracked and monitored every single second of the day by you know who. Before I get into the video, I want to say super thanks for this review on Amazon saying that my books are the go. I so appreciate that. And if you've registered over on the Justice Journals or on OFFSYSTEM, you will know in this heat wave we've been having in the UK, I released a brand new book, The Disability Evidence Guide. It went straight in at #1, guys, so thank you so much. And of course, it supports the Health Evidence Journal that I created here to help so many of you get out of the PIP gel and the tribunal gel when it comes to employment tribunals and all that sort of thing too. I'll link both of these somewhere on this video or underneath, and you can grab it and literally, love your life. Now, I need to clear up something that I have seen flying around a little bit. Lots of people seem to think that this channel and everything I do is all for people who are on benefits. Primarily people on benefits think that, but in actual fact, a lot of what my advocacy does is help people replace traditional employment, because I am not obviously a fan of traditional employment, as we all know, after having to sue one of the biggest employment sectors in the UK for not following their own government policies. And in that battle, I had to learn an awful lot about employment tribunals and, of course, law. I'm also very close to completing my SQE1 as a solicitor, because I think it's just going to make my books and everything else I do that much more interesting. Now, all of the issues that people are having with bank statement checks is not just for people on benefits. You've got to get that really out of your head. If you are the people in the comments saying to me, oh, I'm on PIP, it's not a means tested benefit, or I go to work, this doesn't apply to me, or I work for the NHS or wherever it is that you work, this doesn't apply to me, this is the big misconception. So this is the FEAR Act. It is the Public Authorities Fraud, Error and Recovery Act. If you have not seen this yet, you should be watching my entire playlist, which you will find here, and I will go through that bit by bit from before it came out to where we are now. I watch this act a lot because it infiltrates into so many people's lives, and it now gives certain public authorities, be that the council, your job centre, your hospital, your schools, any type of public authority, a lot more powers than what they used to have before when it comes to money. And because of that, the bank statements come really into a massive, I would say, like private eye consensus. What I mean by that is that your bank statements are being used and will continue to be used by public authorities, and they've already updated this act as well quite a few times since they've published it. They're going to be using your bank statements to give them information on all sorts of other things. Now, I'm going to address the elephant in the room about GDPR and data protection. Lots of you think, oh, I'm covered by GDPR, I don't have to give them everything. And some of you are thinking the complete opposite. I always say you have to be compliant, okay, but there is a difference between guidance and law. DWP quite often spout guidance and it's not law. And considering that I had to sue them, they'd be better placed focusing their attention on the law and following that, and maybe putting less emphasis on guidance. Now, whilst this is all very new and Rachel Reeves is attempting to bring in a tax of 22% on your savings, which was formerly, tax-free, and yes, that includes ISA bank accounts as well, you may now start to see some of the pieces being put together over why so many organisations want to see everything relating to your capital, your income, your savings, and your spend. So what you're spending, where, how often, and the pattern of your lifestyle. I've said to you so many times before with certain organisations, particularly DWP, it's not about how much money you've got coming in and how much money you've got coming out. It's about your lifestyle. Through your bank accounts, one can monitor your entire lifestyle, unless you're clever and you draw out most of your cash. Or do the things that I'm going to be telling you about in the next video. So what can they see? They can see money coming in, they can see money going out, they can see inter-account transfers, and yes, they can see how many bank accounts you've got. They've only got to do an Experian report and it's going to bring all of that up. And certain agencies have all of that information. Agencies like HMRC, for example. They're going to see your wages, if you're on benefits, where you buy your petrol, how often you buy your petrol, or how often you charge your car. If you take the bus, the train, when you go, how you've paid, types of things you're buying in shops, alcohol, direct debits, cash withdrawals, merchant names, dates, and of course, subscriptions and references. Now, all of that is all factual financial data, but in actual fact, it's an awful lot more. And here's where the second layer comes in. And that layer is patterns. Patterns of behaviour, patterns of conduct, and patterns of movement. Now, I want to be clear here. A pattern is not necessarily evidence of wrongdoing, but sometimes some of this evidence, bank statements, for example, when they're put in the hands of an ill-informed person or someone who might just want to have a bit of a gripe about something, maybe they've got KPIs to hit, I don't know, they might take some of that factual information and turn it into a bit of an assumption. I always say assumption isn't fact, but I have been in courts of law where very good barristers will try and turn assumption into fact. A bank statement does not necessarily explain why you paid someone or why someone paid you, why your mum's paid £200 into your bank account and then you've done shopping at Sainsbury's, Boots and God knows where. It doesn't explain why a grandparent's just dropped £300 into your account to pay for your son or your daughter's driving lessons, for example, as a gift. It doesn't explain why you moved cash, and some of you are even asking me, do I have to explain that? Now, I'm going to be honest, it depends on what money you are taking from these public authorities, right? So if you're on benefits or you're receiving treatment prescriptions from the NHS and you're signing, for example, the back of that prescription note that you take to the prescription to get whatever things you need, and you're signing to say you're entitled to have that medicine for free and maybe you're not, that's when that Fear Act is going to come into play. The same when you're making applications to the council saying you can't afford this or you need support with your housing allowance or maybe something relating to council tax. Quite simply put, now, whenever you're receiving any type of financial money from the public authority, that Fear Act gives them a lot of power. It gives them a lot of power to look into things that normally and prior they never did. It gives them the power to actually do recoveries for finance without even having to get a court order. It even gives them the power to remove your driving license if you are not paying what they say you owe. And now with the use of AI, which only works with what it is fed into. I have a tech company, right? We develop a lot of digital assets and digital things. And we are using AI like everybody, perhaps not in the same way, right, as other people. But what I can tell you is you can train AI to do whatever you want it to do. So the key word there is training. Now, if you're using factual data without any explanation, you can even teach AI to be cautious in certain areas or to look for certain things. And before people say AI doesn't have any emotion, I'm going to give you a little test. Go to Claude.ai and ask it to do something. And then when it gives you the response, go, oh, great, that's wonderful, thanks. I'm going to take that to ChatGPT now, and I'm going to get ChatGPT to do it for me. I can bet your bottom dollar, because I've already tested this, that Claude AI will go, oh no, you don't have to go to ChatGPT. I can do it all for you here. And it will instantly start spinning off all sorts of things. So the AI is being trained to gather, keep and control the audience and to use that software. Now you think about that in the bigger picture. A bank statement tells part of the story. It doesn't tell all of the story, and sometimes assumptions are wrong. That's why you need to have your own documentation, your own evidence. I say this with everything, whether it's your health, whether it's your wealth, if it is your money, you should be evidencing it. Stop leaving everything to everything online. I know that's crazy considering what I do, but make sure you have your own evidence locked up, vaulted away. Now, if you're a member of the OFFSYSTEM membership, we have something new in there called MONEYSAFE, and in there you can actually have your lifestyle analysed in accordance to things like this new Fear Act. There is literally a red flag indicator. It will ask you a couple of questions, MONEYSAFE. You just do the replies, and then it will give you a gauge of how much of a red flag your conduct and what you're doing could potentially be. I'm not saying that to scare anybody, and no, it is not scaremongering, but these are the times we live in. Education is always a key to success, as is preparation. So if you know what people are going to be looking for and you're not doing anything wrong, you want to be making sure that you do not have the type of conduct, behavior, or records or financial statements that are given red flag. Because the danger is when assumptions are being left to fill in the gaps. And when it comes to a he said, she said situation, and they have your bank statements, trust me when I can tell you, just be very cautious with that. Now, if you think, Ali, you're going a little bit too far there, I'm going to show you something right now that is going to make your eyes peel. Okay, over on the website, the Justice Journals, there is a whole load of blogs and information, including the banks that I recommend. And as well as this one here, which is bank statements, the new law, and what organisations like DWP haven't told you, you want to look at this one, which is where I say DWP potentially owe me another £91,000 due to tribunal errors. Now, stick with me on this one. Here is the employment reserved judgment, part of the award. And as you can see here, it says the respondent failed to make reasonable adjustments for the claimant in respect of trigger points. And the person writing that judgment was a qualified barrister, now Judge Rayner. I would assume that a judge would be able to make the simple calculation that 2.5 years is not 4 months. However, apparently she's made quite a big error in that calculation, which means technically I've still been underpaid on the judgment. Now, her judgment for me has got quite a few inconsistencies that I am going to be having, well, they are being addressed. And I just want to show you one of them, because when we're talking about bank statements and serious documentation that could impact your life, I want you to see here the difference in the calculation. So currently I should be receiving this amount of money, but I haven't done yet because the judgment is wrong. And there is something else in the judgment that is wrong apart from the calculation. I'm going to leave the link down below so you can actually read it. So in the judge's final judgment, I just want to bring you to this part here, paragraph 974. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, despite being given opportunity to find evidence of emails instructing her to do work, her being me, or allocating her work, the claimant was unable during the course of these proceedings that suggested that she had ever been involved with the fraud project. Okay, so that paragraph is in the public judgment. You can clearly see there, I'm not going to read out the whole thing. The judge has stated that. Now I'm going to put the piece of evidence in front of you that was put in front of the judge, something that she seems to have forgotten when she wrote that paragraph. And here it is. As you can see, this is an email to me. I've obviously taken out certain things I need to take out. I'm just going to blow it up a little bit there. And obviously, as we can see down the bottom, it is from the compliance functional team. So that's counter fraud and compliance. So I think we can all agree that that is an email from the fraud team. Okay, and it says, hi Alison, and I've left my name there so you can clearly see that it was me. Hi Alison, I've had the emails below regarding the self-employment in GWI closed case test and was wondering if anyone has been in contact with you. Basically, I did the case check for compliance and was told early on that the project would be sourcing a work coach. I've spoken to a colleague who has now taken over the area of work, blah, blah, blah. Can we book in a call this week and I'll run things through with you? So without going into too much detail, I just want to assure you my job was not to, I wasn't like a fraud officer or anything like that. I was just to look at claims. I have a big experience in business and self-employment. And before I entered DWP, I only worked there for a few years. And because of that, and because I actually have a business where I coach business owners, I do a lot of business coaching. I see lots of different, and even before then, I've seen lots of different business structures, business types. I know lots of different operating software and what would be kind of more or less typical for a certain type of a business. So it wasn't necessarily about picking up like claimants, right? It would also be looking at the work of work coaches and making sure they were doing what they should be doing to ensure that they were supporting those disabled self-employment claimants and making sure certain policies and processes were being followed correctly. And then I would have to give my opinion about certain work coaches. You can see why they hated me. You can see while the public gallery was filled up with DWP work coaches and team leaders, let's just say after that little assignment, I was not very popular. And that was not very popular with the work coaches, by the way, or the claimants. Anyway, I digress. So that email was in the evidence bundle. It's a public document, so I can obviously disclose it. I've blanked out the different things I need to blank out. However, it's not been included in the judgment. Now, had I not have had control of my own evidence and looked after my own evidence, I would be about 91 grand out, wouldn't I, right now? So this is just a little example of what could happen, especially regarding really serious data transactional evidence like your bank statements, if you just leave it up to those. Check your bank statements. It's your money in your bank account. How many of you are checking your bank statements? Are you checking the transactions are correct? Or are you just looking at them when you don't have any money left, or you've gone into the red or whatever? Now, of course, I'm going down the proper channels to have this type of what I consider to be an error addressed. Because actually, if you look up a little bit further on in that same blog post, just zoom us out a little bit. I think it's up here. There we go. We can see 3 emails from me to the court. They didn't get a reply. And under a rule 69 and a rule 70, the judge is mandated to reply to me on a reserved judgment, and I haven't had it. And again, I just wonder why qualified people don't seem to be sometimes. I just think if I've taken such a large organisation to court and have been successful because they haven't followed their policies, I would just hope that other organisations follow policies, and these types of policies are obviously governed by law. And you might say, why are you talking about this publicly, Alison? And it's because of this. I have been in the newspapers an awful lot about all of this. And me, myself, along with other people who might have various different health conditions, are made out to be incompetent, not hardworking, stupid, or maybe too clever for their own good. We can sometimes be both, apparently. I say this is about how certain litigants in person, particularly disabled people in my case, are forced to take very serious legal action to have things that should not have gone wrong corrected. And those organisations, I do believe, should be held to be accountable in the same way that you and I are now, particularly with acts like the Public Authorities Act. Now, to finish up very quickly, lots of people are saying to me they can't just take money out of your bank account. Yes, they can. And people have been, if you look in the comments, people have been saying, yeah, they took out like £6,000 or £700, whatever it was. No warning, just take it out. And that one of those was the council, another organisation was DWP, and of course, another one was HMRC. So this is the time where you need to be fact checking and making sure that your evidence is clearly accounted for and locked away. And as a final little tip, when you are submitting your bank statements, when you are submitting any type of evidence anywhere, make sure you have a watermark on it. Obviously, this is one of mine. If I was to be using this, this would be a lot fainter. So it'd be like a very light grey on any piece of paper that I would be using. The reason why I haven't done that is just so you can see it. The reason why you want to do that is, number one, you can make sure that the documents that you've submitted haven't been edited or doctored in any way. And also you can make sure that the other party or organisation or whoever it is not using your evidence and then putting it in their bundle as if it's theirs. And yes, DWP did that to me too. Now, over on the Justice Journal's website, we have various different things, and thank you everybody for following Justice Journals, me and the story, and helping share all of this goodness everywhere. And I created something some of you will know, which is Justice Writer Pro. This is particularly helpful if you are a litigant in person in court, or you are trying to save costs or reduce your costs with a solicitor, or if you are taking serious formal action. This is software that I created whilst I was suing the Department of Work and Pensions, because you get so much paperwork, you need to be able to manage your case. So this is a case management tool. It's very, very helpful. It is not a replacement, or indeed is not legal advice. There is a section in there where you can get legal advice from qualified legal experts. But this can really, really help you. It will help your case to be organised, written and ready. And it also has my special letter writing software in there as well. So if you're someone that struggles with words, doesn't really know how to put things together in the way that it does need to be formatted, particularly in employment tribunals, because now employment judges can refuse to accept cases and paperwork if it is not prepared correctly as a litigant in person. That is a big issue, because prior, if you were representing yourself as a litigant in person, you did not have to present in the same way that a solicitor did. I don't think it's the same for a barrister, but definitely a solicitor, which I think is a little bit unfair, because solicitors have law degrees, litigants in person do not. Anyway, that is available over on the Justice Journal's website, or you can just go to justicewriterpro.com. It is a monthly subscription, so you only need to use it when you want it. On a GDPR note, everything saves to your local device or your storage supply. Nothing is saved in the cloud. So it is very, very safe. Well, it's as safe as your computer. So my suggestion is always use external storage. Don't store anything in the cloud. And then you can take it with you off system. Have a great Sunday, everybody. I hope it's been helpful. I love all of your comments. Drop them in below. Give me some more questions and get ready for tomorrow's video.